right, go. I do not know how I'm supposed to advance the PowerPoint slide.
All right, Schell, that's a penalty right there.
How does Strong Bad do it every week? Okay.
You might want to take off one of your gloves.
The gloves are coming off.
All right, that's the second violation.
Are we ready? I'm hitting the button over here.
Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Okay. So I'm going to talk today about patterns for kids and parents playing together. This talk idea was born out of a panel I was on, which was supposed to be on this topic, kids and parents playing together. But the panel and the questions from the audience was just all about patterns for kids. And I came away from it thinking, we didn't even really talk about what we're supposed to talk about. So I kind of put a lot of stuff down, and so I thought I'd talk about it today. For people who don't know me, Warren gave a pretty good introduction there. I used to be in Imagineering. I run a studio called Schell Games with about 60 people in Pittsburgh. I teach at the Entertainment Technology Center at Carnegie Mellon, and I wrote a book once called The Art of Game Design. At Schell Games, we've done a lot of different kids projects. When I was back at Disney, I was the lead designer on Toontown Online, and Schell Games has continued to work on that. Worked on some Disney Quest interactive attractions for the Disney World theme parks, and I'll cite some examples from that today. Pixie Hollow was the first Flash MMO that we did. Was based around the Tinkerbell franchise, and there's an interactive toy that we did as well, based on the Toy Story Mania ride at Disney World. So I'm just going to jump in and give 10 tips for people who would like to make experiences with kids and parents playing together. So my first tip is that if you're going to do it, you have to decide that you're going to do it. It doesn't just happen by magic. There's a lot of people I talk to who say, we're doing a family game, and I say, well, okay, so what specific mechanics are you designing in there so that kids and parents will play together? And they say, well, we're going to put in some stuff we think kids will like, and we're kind of hoping the parents will play with them. And that's not really enough, because the play dynamics of children are different than the play dynamics of kids and parents together. And so you really have to get into the psychology of it. And so that's step one, really, is decide you're going to do it. So a second thing is thinking about your theme. There are some themes kids care about, there are some things parents care about, and then there are some that kids and parents both care about, and you want to find those. Very often it kind of comes down to universal themes. So there's an example of a family dressed up as pirates. Pirates is a pretty good theme that way. Parents can get into that, kids can get into it, they'll do that together. And so universal themes is one way to go, but there are other ways to go too, is to think about themes that are meaningful in the parent-child relationship. When we made Toontown Online, we kind of went this direction. We thought a lot about what are kids and parents both going to care about, because we knew this was one of the first subscription-based games for kids, and we knew there was a collaboration between the parents and kids that decided to pay for it. So we kept thinking about a theme that they would care about, and what we ended up choosing was the theme of work versus play. So the story of Toontown is the happy land of Toontown gets invaded by these business robots. And the business robots want to turn all the Happy Toon buildings into gray office buildings, which are factories that produce more business robots. And the cartoon characters use practical jokes in order to chase these guys out of town. And that's fun and that's cute, but what we found was it was a theme that was meaningful, because the tension between work versus play is something kids and parents talk about all the time. How much homework is too much homework? How much playtime is too much playtime? How much time at work is too much for the parents? And shouldn't they be playing with the children, and finding that balance? And so we found it to be a resonant theme that way. A similar resonant theme we found when we were working on Pixie Hollow. So we were very inspired in creating Pixie Hollow by this book, Last Child in the Woods. And Last Child in the Woods is a documentation of how play patterns have changed in the last 30 to 40 years, because they have changed a great deal in that children no longer go outside. The book is full of statistics about how far children are allowed to go freely from the house, how long do they spend outside at a stretch compared to how they used to, and it's changed in an incredibly dramatic way. And children are so separated from nature in the society that we have right now. And we were very concerned about this, because here we are going to make one more reason for kids to stay inside the house. So we kept thinking, well, what can we do about that? So partly we tried to make something that was respectful to nature. You know, the whole idea of the fairies in Pixie Hollow is they are the guardians of nature. And then secondly, we tried to put in aspects that would be at least a little bit educational. Kids who play this game come away knowing the difference between an oak leaf and a maple leaf, and that's something. But then we were also able to put in something I couldn't believe they let us get away with. Throughout the game, different fairies give you quests. Like Tinkerbell will give you a little quest to go and help somebody or go help some animals in the game. But there's one fairy who's special, and her name is Kit. And when you go and visit Kit, it's different. Normally, you see Tinkerbell's there and your fairy's there, and they have a conversation. When you go see Kit, your fairy's not there, and Kit is looking at you. And she says, "Hi, yeah, I'm Kit. I want to talk to you." "Yeah, no, you behind the screen. You're the one I want to talk to. You might think that you're just a fairy when you come to Pixie Hollow, and then when you leave, you're not a fairy anymore. But I'm here to tell you the truth, is that once you've been here, you're a fairy all the time. And I have some things that I need you to do after you leave Pixie Hollow." And she gives you quests like, go outside and find a pine cone. Or find two trees that look like they might be friends and figure out what their names are. Or my favorite one of all, dig a hole. And of course, like, make sure you do this with your parents, etc., etc.
Okay, Schell, that didn't make any sense.
What, digging a hole doesn't make any sense?
All right, I'll let it go. Go ahead. That's a pass.
All right, thank you, Warren.
Pretty low tech.
Anyway, so another thing to jump on is nostalgia. Nostalgia is a really great way to bridge the generation gap between parents and children. An obvious example is Disneyland. Disneyland's now been in place for over 50 years. Many people, remember going to Disneyland or even Disney World when they were children, and it's an experience they want to share with their kids. And so you can have these old things that parents want to share, and that can be a good way to bridge. But even things that are a little newer, like SpongeBob SquarePants is a really interesting example. He's a relatively new character, but he has very classic elements. He's clearly a descendant of the whole Looney Tunes line of characters that so many parents grew up with. And so that because he has these classic elements and this music from the 20s and this classic aspect, it can really foster conversations between parents and kids, because kids are really interested in what parents' childhoods were like, and these things can really foster those conversations. So the third tip is you want to understand what families want, and then you want to provide it. You need to figure that out. So what are the wants of families? Well, one of the things families really suffer with right now in our modern society is it's like all of society is trying to rip families apart. It used to be everyone gathered around one television in the living room and it was a family moment. Now everybody has multiple televisions. They go off and watch their own shows. There's 150 channels. Everybody's watching completely different programs. Everybody has digital distractions of all kinds. Mom and dad have things from work that are pulling them away in their pocket. Work's in your pocket all the time, right? Even when you're out playing with your kids. There's work in my pocket. I gotta go deal with that. And the kids have these little handheld screens. Everything is just kind of pulling everybody in different directions. Divorce rates are up. There's more homework than ever. Work hours are longer than ever. The entirety of society wants to tear families to pieces. So if you can create something that brings families together and creates a bonding moment for them, it's now more valuable than ever. It is something that people want. And they want these shared experiences. One that I was very pleased with, we did this Hercules in the Underworld experience at Disney Quest. And I always like to check up on how our experiences go after they open. And this was a cave-based experience that you all go into a cave and have this adventure together, 3D glasses, multiple projection screens around you. And you kind of go as a group and have this group experience, saving ancient Greece. And I remember being in line, and there's this family in line in front of me, and they are having a bad day, right? There's a lot of tension, and there's a lot of barking at each other. There's like this boiling trailer park anger that is happening here, right? You've got like an 11-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl, and dad, his gruff character, and he's really tired, and he's barking at the two of them, and the two of them are hitting each other and yelling and whining and complaining. They're all upset, and it's really uncomfortable and tense. And they go into the experience, and then of course I like to watch when people come out. And I get to see this family come out. And first the boy comes out, and he comes out and he says, "That was awesome." And the girl comes out, she's like, "That was cool." And then dad comes out, he's got his beer belly and his beard, and he says, "That was beautiful." Right? And it was an experience where the three of them got to do it together, and they got to not just see something beautiful together, but they solved a problem together. Because this is something families want. They want to have accomplishments together. Most of the accomplishments that individuals in a family have are very separate. Your accomplishments at school or at work or whatever are very separate from each other. I think this was part of the appeal of the movie The Incredibles. It was a story of a very fractured family that found they had to come together in order to solve problems together. And I think in terms of deep resonant theme, I think that's partly why it was so appealing. And that's one of the great things about games. Games give that opportunity for shared accomplishment. And of course, parents want to feel that they've provided meaningful, useful experiences. It's very important to parents that they feel that they've led their children through experiences that are going to be meaningful and useful to them. And so very often those are things that feel educational or involve problem solving. And beyond that, parents want to feel that they've provided. And it's something I've seen again and again at the theme parks. You see that parents, we're not just going here to have fun. There's something important in this migration that people do to the theme parks, where parents are sort of feeling like, I've provided my children with these rich, interesting experiences, and it's sort of validation that they've provided at all. And if you can find ways to make people feel like, yeah, I've provided something, and even better if it's something meaningful and useful, it can go a long way. Something you don't hear from kids very much, but that is totally true. Kids want to feel more emotionally connected to their families. You're not going to have that in a focus group, So Joaquin, what do you really want? I want to feel more emotional connection with my father. Yeah, okay, that's you're not going to hear that. But it's true, and when it happens, you see it in the kids' faces. So if you can find ways to kind of bridge that emotional connection, it means a lot. And related to that, both kids and parents want to connect to distant relatives. Again, we have a society where people are moving around more than ever before. People are far away from aunts and uncles and grandparents, and very often you have divorced parents living in separate states even. And we know that people are using digital technologies to connect more and more, but who among us has intentionally set out to create a game where they said, I'm going to design this game so that distant relatives can connect with each other in an experience that's meaningful to them. It's rare to have someone set out to do that. So fourth tip, parents really want to teach. They love teaching, and children want to learn. And so that's part of the reason educational experiences can be a great way to kind of bridge the gap between parents and children. But too often we make the mistake of saying this is an educational experience, that means the computer will be teaching the child. When instead, if you can create experiences that foster the ability of the parent to teach the child. People who design museums know all about this, because they know they'll come up to an exhibit and the kid's like, what's that? And the parent has no idea, but they want to answer the question. So they put at parent eye level enough text that the parent can be like, oh, well, actually, that's a kind of amphibian known as a salamander. And, and they can talk about it as if they knew, right? Because they want to be in that place. You can create experiences that give them that opportunity. So part of it is you want to create opportunities where the parents can teach. And it doesn't have to be something very, crazy pedagogical. It can be something as simple as jokes. One of the things we did in Toontown was the enemies we made them these office robots, and we used all this office humor to kind of to theme them. So we have guys like the headhunter as an enemy, and the ambulance chaser, you know, characters like that. And the kids have no idea, ambulance chaser, kind of what that means or why that's funny. But the adults get it. But the kids are aspirational. They want to get the joke, and so they want to know it, and the parent wants to teach. And so it often creates these conversations between the kids, and the kids come away feeling like they've been led into the adult world, and the parents feel like they've done something, they've explained something, and there's a connection, and it's nice. So if you create games where kids are in a situation over their heads, but the parents can help with it, that's good for everybody. And you want to create opportunities where kids can show what they've learned too, because they're very proud to do that, and parents are always pleased to see when a child's learned something. So this is an example from the Sum of All Thrills attraction at Disney's Epcot Center, which is an experience where kids get to, well, families get to go and design their own roller coaster, and then they get into a giant 40-foot-long robot arm motion simulator that picks you up, and you actually get to experience the coaster you designed. And the experience could have been made very, very low level, so anybody could just, so that you're just connecting shapes. But the designers put in a lot of equations and things that don't need to be there. You don't need them for the experience. But what happens is it fosters this situation where you got some kid in junior high who's taking an early physics class or something. They're like, oh, 1/2 mv squared. I know this. This is all about kinetic energy. And it kind of fosters this conversation, which is nice. This was an experience we worked on at Carnegie Mellon University. This was kind of an early version of it, called Electric Racer for PBS, for Sesame Workshop, for the Electric Company show. And it uses Unity, and the idea was to create a game where that kids and parents would need to play together that was about reading, because studies have shown that kids reading alone learn less well than when the parents are there with them. And presumably this is because when they hit a hard word or something they didn't understand, they can have a conversation with the parent and the kids learn better. So the thought was, can you create a game about reading where the kids and parents play together? And the way we did it was we created a situation, again, of being in over your head. So it's a simple racing game. You're just driving a car, but you have a goal. And your goal in this case is that you want to run over the words that have a soft G, so a J sound as opposed to a G sound. So in this case, game should be avoided, and cage is the word that you'd want to go after. And so, okay, that's the goal. So the kid does that, but then once they do that, the letters from the word go flying onto your dashboard, and then you have to unscramble them. So in this case, we have on the dashboard the letters from game, but the kid is still driving. The parent's job is to unscramble them. Now, it seems really simple to unscramble a word that you just saw, but the problem is, if you're unscrambling, like, that's fine for the first one, but on the second one, you're unscrambling, and the kid just ran over another one, and then now that one's stacked up to come in. And the only way you can kind of get through this is for the parent to be like, wait, what word was that? Which word did you just hit? And the kids, we never tell them this, but the kids quickly figure out the strategy is read the words out loud when you go for them. And then, so you get a thing where the kid is reading the words out loud to the parent, and the parent is there working to unscramble them. And we're very pleased with how it came out. You can see it on the Electric Company website. So, tip 5 is co-opt existing roles for quick immersion. Families have pre-existing roles. Games need people to take roles. You know, someone's going to be, the captain or the gunner or whatever. Families already have roles. So this was an example from the Pirates of the Caribbean cave experience at Disney Quest. It's for 4 people. 3 of them run around with the cannons in the front, and they're kind of fighting against these pirates. And 1 person needs to be at the helm, steering the ship. And one thing we found was the kids would run to the front. Dad would then go to the front, acting all casual. I'm just going to go to the front with these cannons here, I guess. And Mom would hang in the back with steering the ship, generally. This was generally what would happen. And this worked out really, really well. Because first of all, Mom is used to driving these jerks around all the time. She does this, 7 days a week, so she's used to that. Secondly, the captain of the ship is in a really good position. They can see more than everybody else. They can give orders to people. Hey, there's a ship on the right side. Everybody get over there. Or hey, let her have a turn, right? And everybody's used to taking orders from mom. Everybody. And so this is a 5-minute experience. And we would find that the existing family roles would come in, and boom, within 30 seconds, everyone kind of had their position and had their place, and they were using the existing family dynamic to work well within the game. And so that can be a nice way if you want quick immersion. Another interesting example, webkins. So one of the challenges of kind of going into this new digital age is the fact that you got this new thing. It's like, how does it work? Do I got to buy stuff online, or what do I do? And we have found this is to be a big challenge, getting parents to pay for subscription games online. But webkins was a whole different thing. Like, parents already have a role as, I am stuffed animal provider. That's what I do. I go to the store, buy a stuffed animal, I bring it home. And webkins is like, that's all you have to do if you want to be on this world. Buy one of our stuffed animals. And parents are like, yep, that's a role I know. Here I am. Here's the stuffed animal. Kid, you figure it out on the computer from here, right? And so that was a way to kind of get that. I think part of the reason it succeeded. Now, on the flip side of that, reversing roles can be really, really delightful. It's something that everybody can enjoy. And I think the reason for that is everybody wants a break from the parent-child relationship. The parent-child relationship is stressful. It's stressful for the parents. It's stressful for the children. Every once in a while to kind of flip it around and it's like, okay, kid, you're in charge and I'm going to be the one who's being all playful. It's a fun thing to play at, and it's a thing parents and kids love to do. You see it at the theme parks all the time. The kids are in charge. Where's where we're going to go next, right? And the kids make decisions and the parents are like, whatever, we're on vacation, I don't care, sure, whatever. And you see parents do this, at home all the time. There's all, the kid will be the teacher, and the parent will pretend to be the student, and all these sorts of things. So that can be really fun, and if you build that into your game, it can be fun. And similarly with reversing roles, all parents eventually have some experience where the child is able to surpass their skill at something. It might be the moment when a kid first beats dad at chess, and it's a landmark moment. It's an exciting moment. And the ability to kind of practice and prepare for these moments and give kids a way to aspire to them is another part of kind of reversing roles. So gender issues are also very important. And we talk about this all the time, the difference between the way boys play and girls play, and that there are some differences and there are some similarities. But we seldom talk about them within the family, because it's complicated, gender issues within the family. It's not just male and female. It's this complicated situation because the way mom kind of relates to dad is very different from my dad's point of view about how dad relates to mom. And how a brother wants to play with a sister is very different from how a sister might want to play with a brother. And how about how a son plays with a father versus the way a daughter plays with a mother? And how what the father wants to do with the boy, and what the mom has in mind for playing with the girl, and what about daddy-daughter play? And what are better experiences for sons and mothers playing together? So right there, you have 12 different points of view. Each of these family members seeing, how they'd like to play with these others. It's very rich and complicated, and that's not even getting into ages. The way an older sister wants to play with a younger brother is different than how an older brother wants to play with a younger sister. It gets very rich and complicated, and by designing specific mechanisms that work well with these different dynamics, you can often fill gaps. You can fill needs that are unmet. So, 8th tip, if you're talking about games where people will pay, which is nice. I think it's nice when people pay for experiences, and we like that. When you're talking about kids and parent games, very often these online experiences in particular, you're talking about a collaboration between kids and parents. The parents can't buy it because they don't know what's good, and the kids can't buy it because they don't have a credit card. So in order to pay for an online experience, the kids and parents have to get together and say, yeah, we both like this. Which means that if you haven't designed for the family dynamic, you're going to have a hard time getting people to pay for it. It's one of the things I think Club Penguin did beautifully with their elastic velvet robe model. the whole idea that kids can play it for free online. They don't have to talk to mom and dad. And after they play, and they have this, they earn more and more virtual money online for free, but they can't spend it until somebody comes in with a credit card. And so this keeps the kids playing it for a long time, and they keep coming back to mom, can I get it? How about now? Can we pay for it now? And after several weeks, mom might say, oh, well, boy, he's really into it. All right, you've stuck with this for 6, 8 weeks. I think sure, we'll pay for this now. And we did an interesting one with Toontown where we did monthly mailers to the subscribers. Every subscriber will get a monthly mailer where they get trading cards and a little newsletter. And that was cool, and we did it because for a number of reasons. One, because it was nice and it was a nice experience. But the more important reason, the way we got it past marketing, was we realized that you have this problem of, you have to think about the moment of payment is tough, but then what about the moment of cancellation if you've got a subscription thing? When does a game get canceled? It gets canceled at night. Mom or dad are sitting, balancing the checkbook, going through the credit card statement. What is this thing? Are we still paying for that? Does she even play that anymore? The kid's already gone to bed, can't ask them, you know what, I'm just going to cancel this. And we realized, wow, that's not the moment we want. And the cool thing about the mail is a moment when parents and kids come together, because the parents are the guardians of the mail. So when mail comes for the kid, the parent is going to bring it to the child. They're going to come together. And what happens when kids get mail? They're excited. Kids so seldom get mail, and when they do, it's cool. So they're always excited to get mail. So now by sending something monthly, you've created this moment where the parents go to the kid, and the kid's, oh, I'm so excited, Toontown, Toontown, Toontown. And the parent sees that and remembers it, and maybe, you get a stay of execution on that credit card cancellation, right? So you have to think about those payment moments. So safety is paramount, obviously, right? But people, I think, often have confused ideas about what safety means online. I hear people talk about, oh yeah, no, our game is safe. Kids can't see any dirty words in our game. Well, that's nice. It's good to keep kids away from dirty words, but you know what? Dirty words aren't going to hurt them. It's not really a safety issue. They're going to see dirty words anyway. They're going to go to school. They're going to go out in the world. It's going to happen. You don't want it to happen to your game. It's fine you're doing that. It has nothing to do with safety. And then people say, oh, we're COPPA compliant. We're safe. Again, it has nothing to do with safety. All COPPA is about protecting the children from you, the terrible corporation that's trying to sell them junk, right? What we have to worry about is them meeting strangers in your game. So this was an example here. Alicia was a young girl who'd been in an online chat room, and she'd met a stranger online in 2001, and she'd been having kind of a tough situation at home. I think she was about 13 when this happened, and so she was feeling kind of alienated from her parents. She's talking to this stranger online. Eventually, he makes an appointment. You know what? Why don't we meet? I'll pick you up outside your house. And so on New Year's Day, 2002, he makes an appointment to pick her up. And he picks her up and takes her out of state from Pennsylvania into Virginia, across state lines, and locks her up in a cage in his house and begins to systematically abuse her. And this is a picture that he posted of himself online with all his torture equipment that he keeps in his garage. So this is what we have to worry about when we make online experiences. Not that kids might see a 4-letter word. This is the real thing we have to worry about. When when we made Toontown, we did a thing we never told the executives about. We had the art director put together an image of Time magazine on the day that the first kid got abducted due to us not making our game safe enough. And we like, I want you to do this magazine cover so we can all look at it and burn it into our brains so that we make sure this never, ever happens. Because normally when you write software and it's bad and there's a problem, it's just a bad game, and who cares? When you're talking about online experiences where people can talk to each other and people can talk to kids, you are in a very, very dangerous place. It can be safe, but man, you have to decide you're going to take care of it. Now, Alicia, fortunately, was rescued. This guy was so bold he started posting pictures of his prize online. And somebody, saw one of these and knew where his house was and called the FBI. And she was rescued and made it home. And so she's alive, but somewhat worse for the wearer. So tip number 10 is you need to design for the family as well as for individuals. And so one of the things you want to do, you want to design ways to let them connect with each other, because that's what they want to do. If you can come up with different ways where they can connect, it can be very clever. So Animal Crossing is a great example. Animal Crossing, everybody gets their own little account in Animal Crossing, and that's cool. But you can leave presents for each other, and you can kind of send messages to each other when you're offline. And it was just a kind of a neat way to give people something to talk about with each other. And the thing to realize, families are terribly busy. They are just so busy. Everyone's got a million things to do. They're in 20 directions. And so software for families has to be, it can't waste their time. If there's a risk that they're going to have problems getting it working or installed, or it might be boring for some of them, they're just going to skip it because they know they're so busy. And so the design challenge is very hard for you. You have to make sure you design it so that it doesn't waste their time and it fulfills their needs as efficiently as possible, because they're just not going to put up with. They don't have the time to put up with anything else. So the last thing, the thing I leave you with, we always say we want to create games that have a emotional experience in it. We want more emotional experiences in our games. The bond between parents and children is the strongest emotional force that we know of. There isn't one that's stronger than that. And so if you can create games that help enhance and build and work off of that bond, you can create games that have very meaningful emotional experiences. I want to just read you this was a blog post. So after we did Pixie Hollow, people started blogging about it. That was fun. And so this was a mom had posted this on her blog, which she calls the blog is called Dispatches from the Pixie Glade. So she posted this. Rose is 7. Her birthday was on Friday, so we spent the last 2 days celebrating. She had her heart set on a party, just like the virtual kind she throws in Pixie Hollow for all her digital Pixie friends, with a 3-tier pink frosted cake with lots of decorations. So there's a picture in Pixie Hollow when you go baking, because there's baking games that you play in there. The problem, of course, was me. I can't bake. I can cook, and I love to make food of all kinds, but I just can't seem to make a proper cake to save my life. To make the cake Rose wanted, I had to bake 4 round cakes from 2 boxes of cake mix to get enough layers. This required 2 trips to the grocery store and about 4 hours of work. Don't ask me how. Once the cakes were cool, I cut them into 3 different sized circles and put all the cake in the refrigerator while I made the icing. It was all going better than expected at that point. When the time came, I carefully frosted the 2 bottom layers and was feeling very optimistic. Then, I stacked the 2 small cakes with a little chocolate icing left over from a brownie-related disaster the week before. That was dicey, and I ended up just sort of laying bits of chocolate icing around the top of one of the cakes. However, when I started with the pink buttercream, things went downhill rapidly. The whole thing started to crumble. After I got it out of the freezer, I had to give up and remove most of one of the small cakes and smash some pink icing right onto the hardened chocolate icing before molding it into something vaguely cylindrical. It gets worse. I didn't realize that the buttercream needed to be refrigerated before I tried to use it to decorate. We darkened it up with more food dye and put it in a pastry bag, thinking we could figure out how to make those little scallop shapes that bakeries put around the bottom of cakes. Nope. Just gobs of melty icing. By the time I finished the makeshift art on top of the cake, I was close to tears because I thought I'd ruined Rose's birthday. But do you know what she said to me? I love it because I know how hard you worked on it. You don't have to be perfect all the time. And then I did cry, because having Rose say that to me was about the best thing that's happened to me this year. So that's obviously not a moment we designed into the game in any direct intentional way, but when you make games where parents and kids can connect with each other, these moments can come out of them. Thanks.
Thanks, Jesse.
Worry about it.